Welcome to Beyond the Credits. I'm your host, Aaron, alongside, as always, Fugi and producer Trey, who is decked out in Prada for today's occasion. On today's show, we will be talking about our thoughts on some new releases. We'll cover the new horror release, Hokum. At least Fugi and Trey will cover that. I did not see that one. And we'll also talk about the sequel to the 2006 film Devil Wears Prada, Devil Wears Prada 2. And we will close off talking about some of our favorite comfort movies. Just for so many people, Devil Wears Prada is one of those kind of classic comfort movies. So we felt like it made a good occasion to talk about some of our favorite comfort movies. But before we do that, Fugi, we've got a lot of news to cover this week. Starting with, and I know we exchanged some messages about a few of these, but we haven't got a chance to talk about all of them. We got a whole new set of Oscar rules a few days ago. Starting with the first one that, I mean, there's not really too much to say because it is obvious and it should have been a rule, but curious your thoughts on it. There was a rule that was established that no AI performances can win Academy Awards. I would be concerned if they could, but I was glad to at least see that the Academy put this in writing that they cannot be nominated for an Oscar.
I don't know of any movie that would have ever had an AI performance that the Oscars would have nominated, let alone win. But sure, I'm glad that they're putting that set in stone that it will never happen.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting territory because obviously, if it's like 100% an AI character, that's one thing. But the thing that we're kind of starting to see a little bit, and I would imagine is going to only become more prevalent as time goes on, is sort of repurposing old actors and kind of making AI performances for that. I don't know if you've seen the controversy, but there's a new film coming out, I think this summer, that is actually has Val Kilmer in the movie. Obviously, he has passed away, and they're essentially just taking old footage that they have of him, and the entire performance is essentially AI generated based on that. There was going to be some sort of weird situations that we found ourselves in the coming years. I highly doubt that performance will be worthy of an Academy Award, but at least good to see them kind of laying the groundwork on that. Another addition sort of to the rules that was announced was that starting with this year's Oscars, the same actor can actually be nominated twice in the same category for different films. So the rule sort of around that in the past, and we've seen a couple of instances, was that you could be nominated in a leading category and then a supporting category. This has happened a couple of times over the course of the past couple of years. But if you had two lead performances in a year from different films, you could not be nominated twice in the same category. So presumably, I think that means that this has probably happened at some point over the past couple of years, and this is why they're kind of taking a stance on it. I don't know if it will really matter over the long run, but thought it was interesting that they added this to the rules.
The one year that Mayor Chory, so like 2020 Oscars, was Scarlett Johansson supporting in Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, she was supporting in Jojo Rabbit. Yeah.
See, I did. I guess I thought she was. I thought that she was lead in both of those. But that's interesting. Yeah, it'd be weird to give two Oscar performances in one year, but it definitely could happen.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I think a lot of people's first thought was like, if you're the actor in that scenario, would you even want to be nominated in the same category? Because if you are, presumably you're just going to get vote split between your two different performances that are great. But I thought it was fun because a lot of people sort of went back and tried to think through what are some instances where this could have happened in the past. The best one that people came up with was Kate Winslet in 2008. She was nominated for a performance in The Reader, and potentially could have also been nominated for a performance in Revolutionary Road. Another one very recently is actually Sebastian Stan in 2024. He got nominated for The Apprentice, but very easily could have also been nominated for A Different Man. There's a couple of instances like that when you look through Hollywood history where it could happen, but I think to your point, it's pretty few and far between when this would likely actually happen.
It would also suck if you got nominated for two, Best Actor, Timothée Chalamet gets two nominations, and you lose both of those. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you have a 40% chance of winning that, and you just kind of don't. That would that would double suck, I guess.
I mean, I feel like it would you would probably lose, like,
Yeah.
unless everybody just rallied around, like, only vote for this one performance because presumably there would be a whole contingency of the academy that would be more interested in voting for someone else anyway. So if you split the people who are interested in Timothy Chalamet in this instance, but he's someone that, I mean, who knows what his slate's going to look like over the next couple of years, but he's the kind of person that you could totally see this sort of thing happening to. So will be interesting to see if it ever really comes into play. But some people were saying, why did they even do this? I think it's pretty clear that this has probably happened over the course of the past couple of years, maybe not couple years, but past couple decades. And them instituting this rule was essentially saying, like, we're not going to let that happen anymore. I wish that they would release the vote totals and we could have seen who the people were that would have gotten this and maybe who the people were that would have been cut out, but they're obviously never going to do that. So we'll just keep wishful thinking in that regard. One of the other rule changes, and these were the two that I, well, the first one we could talk about a little bit, but the second one, the last one, is the one that I think is actually going to be the most impactful. But the first one, and I know we talked about this a little bit, was there was a rule now that the international feature category, the films will actually be the nominee, not the country. So and it was interesting to see how this evolved over the course of the past couple days because it actually changed a little bit from when you and I talked about it. So originally everyone's understanding of this was that the director was actually going to become an Oscar nominee because that has been a problem for years in Hollywood. You'll have sort of an up and coming director that takes someone like Joaquin Trier last year for Sentimental Value. uh, Essentially was an Oscar winner, but he is not counted as an Oscar winner or nominee because the country was the one who actually got the Oscar award. Everyone thought that this change was going to mean that the directors would become Oscar winners. They've clarified since then that that is actually no longer the case. The director will have their name engraved on the statue, but they will go up and they will accept the award on behalf of the film, but they will not be considered an Oscar nominee or Oscar winner. Really, the change is that the award will not go to the country anymore. The award will just kind of go to the film, quote unquote. So France will not win an Oscar for if a film from their country wins. It will just be that the film wins, which is kind of weird if you're going to go halfway like that. Like, why not just go all the way and say that the directors get an award? So I don't know if you had seen that little bit of a wrinkle since we had talked about it.
No, I didn't see that change. Does that mean that multiple films from the same country could get nominated now, or is it still the sentence? Because isn't only like one from France, and if there's two from France, you have to pick one or the other?
Yeah, so this actually segues into the final thing that was announced as far as rule changes, and I don't even think you realize you were
No.
teeing me up as well as you were there. But so what you're explaining is the way that it previously was. So the way that it previously was is essentially every country had to get together. They all had their different film commissions, committees, however they wanted to go about there, and they had to decide what was the film that they are going to submit for Academy Award consideration. So one of the instances in recent history was a few years ago. I think it was 2023. France got together and they decided that The Taste of Things was going to be the film that they submitted. Um, in reality, The Taste of Things didn't even end up getting nominated for international feature when they had a little film called Anatomy of a Fall that ended up sneaking into not only screenplay, but also I think it ended up getting nominated for Best Picture as
Yeah.
well. So not only would that have been a shoe in to get nominated for international feature, it may have even won international feature in that year. And it put the countries in this weird spot where they essentially had to choose. The rule change is there are now two different ways that you can qualify for Best International Film at the Academy Awards. The first one is exactly what we just described, where the countries can get together and they'll submit their film for the country. The second one is that there are a group of qualifying film festivals. And if you win a big award at those film festivals, that movie is automatically submitted for Academy Award consideration. So the film festivals are Berlin, Busan, Cannes, Sundance, Toronto, and Venice. So, essentially the big ones that you would think about. So if your film won the Palme d'Or, So take sentimental value. Well, actually, sentimental value didn't win last year. It was just an accident won last year. That movie would have automatically gone towards being able to be nominated for the Academy, and the country would not have to waste one of their slots on that award. The other area that this really matters, and I think the reason that this was a change that was made, and so glad that the Academy moved in this direction. We've seen this kind of growing trend over the past couple of years where filmmakers who maybe are making movies that their country does not really agree with, or would be completely against, really had no chance at all of being submitted in the international feature category. So we've seen two instances of this in the past couple of years. The first one would have been last year with It Was Just an Accident. There was 0% chance that the Iranian government was going to submit this film that was very, really just kind of went at the government in a lot of ways and the current regime there. And really what had to happen was I think it was either France or Germany, some other country ended up coming along and choosing that as its submission. So I think it's good that we have a system now. It's a high standard to be able to win an award at one of these film festivals, but we have a system to where these dissident filmmakers that maybe are not really seen as favorably, because essentially the country has to put their stamp of approval on the film to be able to nominate it. And we should be pushing for art that necessarily doesn't always get the stamp of approval. Like you think about in the US what that would look like right now, like the kinds of movies that would have to be made to kind of get the stamp of approval from the Trump administration, probably not the full representation of what's being made in the country. So I think this is a great change. Curious for your thoughts though, Fugi.
Yeah, I feel like it just, especially with the film festival, it just allows the best films be nominated. Whether you have
100%.
5 movies from the same country, it doesn't really. I guess I didn't really think about the Taste of Things, Anatomy of a Fall, like the fact that that was nominated for Best Picture. It had a Best Actress nomination,
Yeah.
all these awards, and it didn't make it. That just doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah, right.
So
But
I'm
it was
glad that
because
we're.
of the system. I mean,
Yeah,
they essentially French had to decide between the two of them. And, to be honest with you, at the point when they had to make the decision, it kind of looked like the Taste of Things was gonna be the one to be in that position. And then the Anatomy of a Fall just sort of burst onto the fall festival scene like no one could have imagined. So I think it's a good step. It'll be interesting to see how it actually plays out. It would be quite hilarious if we end up in a situation like you just described, where there's just like four different. Take France; it's probably the best country to think about this at, but they just like win the Cannes prize, they win the Sundance prize, they win the Toronto prize, and then they submit a film as well. I would imagine if that happens, there will probably be some additional rule changes, but nonetheless, love to see the Academy moving in the right direction in that regard. Another piece of news that I wanted to briefly touch on, um, the forthcoming film from Greta Gerwig, The Magician's Nephew, was supposed to release in IMAX this fall, right around Thanksgiving, and they announced that they are postponing that till February 2027. And it's actually going to get a wide release from the entire world. So that they're essentially targeting kind of the Wuthering Heights time frame. But Boogie, I just thought it was a great move to see Netflix going to be doing a wide release. Hopefully, this is a step in the right direction for them.
obviously they are confident in this movie. I think. I think they should be rightfully so with Greta Gerwig. But I think moving it to February, it kind of paves the way for success for them. It should at least, and a good box office return. But I think this could be a good testing point. I mean, imagine this makes $1 billion or
Yeah,
something crazy. Like what that could do for the future of Netflix is, I think, the big question here. Because maybe they could pivot to releasing all their movies in theaters. Not all of them, but a few each
they're
year.
big tentpole
Yes,
stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So I
I
think
kind
that'd
of
be
would
really
love
cool.
to. I kind of would love to see the behind the scenes on like what actually drove this decision. Like, is is Gerwig just in post production and she just needs a few months on the movie, and so is that why it's getting moved from November to February, or is it really Netflix pushing now towards, hey, we want to try this like full theatrical release thing, and they needed a couple of months to be able to get that in line. But the big question that this opens up is now that because the Magician's Nephew, this forthcoming Narnia movie from Greta Gerwig, essentially had IMAX exclusive screens for 2 weeks in November. So now that this slot has opened up, does Doomsday, which is sort of set in this standoff right now with Dune Part 3 in December, where Doom Part 3 is going to get all the IMAX screens, Doomsday is going to get none of them. Does Doomsday now move towards November to be able to secure the IMAX screens? Do you have a take on that?
I mean, I think they've been very vocal that they're not moving. Now, obviously, this was prior to this happening, but I don't see them moving. I think it's good for theater, or like, I mean, Barbie and Oppenheimer. Obviously, they're very different movies, but like that was good for movie theaters. They both made almost $1 billion. Guarantee you, Doomsday will not. I mean, it's going to make 1.5, 2 billion. And Dune, the same people are going to see both those movies regardless of when they're coming out. So I would say they're going to stay probably.
I saw someone on Twitter joking that the Russo brothers were not going to be finished editing this movie until like the day before it came out anyway, so it would be impossible to move it forward like 5 or 6 weeks, which I think is probably pretty fair with what we know about that production process at this point.
Yeah, I would agree.
Another piece of news over the past week, and I don't know if you saw this one or not. We don't have to talk about it very long, but there was a new film directed by Fernando Mireles that was announced, and it's going to be a comedy film called Art. And the log line is as follows, and it actually is based on a play. So the play Art right now is on Broadway, and the stars of the film, or not stars of the film, stars of the play are James Corden, Neil Patrick Harris, and Bobby Cannavale. And it may actually have closed at this point, but it was on Broadway last fall. But essentially, the stage play and now the film, it follows three longtime friends as they navigate the complexities of art and friendship. So you hear the log line, like, okay, that sounds cool. That's enough to get excited about. But I think what's exciting about this is the cast that was announced. So those three friends are going to be played by Ray Fiennes, Colin Farrell, and Wagner Mora, which is three guys that I don't know that I would have ever thought about being in a movie together, but has me excited.
Give me a triple nomination for that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, one
yeah,
of them, and that I mean, honestly, it could happen. Like, I would not be shocked if two of them at least get something like that. And it kind of from that log line, I'm getting a little Banshees of and a Sharon vibes from Colin because it was kind of like they're exploring friendship, but I think that
yeah.
will be. I mean, that cast alone will be amazing alone, and then you get a cool log line that sounds very interesting and will. Yeah, I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, and there is a lot of history with this director and kind of Oscar-y type performances. So a few years ago, he did the Two Popes, which got Anthony Hopkins an Oscar nomination, and he actually has a movie that's coming out later this year as well, which is one that I think a bunch of people are super excited about. It's called Here Comes the Flood, and it's starring Daisy Edgar Jones, Robert Pattinson, and Denzel Washington. It's actually going to be a Netflix movie. So obviously he's no surprise to be getting a great cast, but just again, I have no idea anything about the story, no idea when it's going to release or anything, but saw that news and was pretty excited about that. Final thing I want to discuss, and this is just more of just a fun fact because I doubt that it's on your radar and it may not even be playing near you, but have you seen this movie in theaters called Desert Warrior? Does that name ring a bell at all?
It does not. No.
Okay, and I think there's a reason that it doesn't. So Desert Warrior is essentially this kind of foray of the Saudi Arabian government sort of and we've seen this across all of culture. They're trying to invest their money into things and just kind of let their kind of their how they're known be seen differently throughout the rest of the world. So they invested in Live Golf and they did that sort of thing. This is sort of their foray into Hollywood movie making. This movie stars none other than Anthony Mackie. I'm presuming as the titular Desert Warrior, but This movie is on pace to be one of the biggest box office flops of all time. So, so far it's like a $150 million budget. So this is a huge action spectacle. Guess how much it has earned as of a few days ago, Fugi?
I mean, I do know, like, once you started talking about this, I did see that. I saw it was like $500,000.
Yeah, it was about $488,000 as of a few days ago on a $150 million budget. I just feel like this isn't being talked about enough.
Well, the what doesn't make sense to me is, the Saudi Arabia, they got all these, Bryson DeChambeau for golf. They've gotten Ronaldo for soccer. Why did they go after Anthony Mackie? Like, there's no way they were like, "Oh, this guy's gonna be the guy that's gonna bring in the big bucks."
I think that it's probably that he was like that's
The
actually a
only
good question.
one, the
Like
only one they
how
could get.
well, yeah, like how many calls did they have to make before someone actually said yes? I mean, presumably they're gonna, back up the Brinks truck for a huge wad of cash. You think about the first calls, obviously they would call like a Tom Cruise or someone like that.
Yeah.
Those people, there is no chance that they're gonna associate themselves with the Saudi Arabian government. And honestly, if you made me guess, I would probably say you would have to go about as far down as like an Anthony Mackie before you would get a yes. Um, I would be curious to see how much they had to pay him. I mean, presumably, especially from a Hollywood perspective, I think you would be worried about like just ruining your reputation by working with people like this. And apparently, Anthony Mackie is at a point in his career where that doesn't really matter too much.
He was looking for a rebound after a Brand New Day or whatever. No, not Brand New Day, Brave New World.
Yeah,
But obviously it failed even more than that
I don't know
did.
how you could watch that Captain America movie and be like, "This is who we want to lead our action spectacle," but they did. I will not be seeing this movie in theaters, but I do hope at some point that it lands on a streaming service because I would just like to see it, just to see if you can actually see that $150 million budget. But um, we'll see what that looks like as time goes on. Sort of a weird pivot to go from that to talking about our first topic of today, but we're going to try to do it somehow. Um, I guess going from Saudi Arabia to Ireland, is that where this movie is set? Maybe. First topic of discussion, and I alluded earlier that Fugi, you and Trey have both seen this one. Going to talk a little bit about Hokum. Our main topic will be The Devil Wears Prada 2, but since this is one of the bigger releases this week, did want to cover it in some regard. And since you two are the horror aficionados on the podcast, we'll cede it over to you to talk about this one. Just to set it up for people, Hokum is the new horror film from Damien McCarthy, starring Adam Scott, and the logline is as follows: a horror writer visits an Irish inn to scatter his parents' ashes, unaware the property is said to be haunted by a witch. I was telling you all this previously. You all were trying to get me to watch this before we recorded. I had planned to see it yesterday and figured that it would be a good idea for me to at least watch the trailer before I did so. And I got about 30 seconds into the trailer and I was an immediate no on watching this one. So I may not have too much to say, but I'm curious, what did you all think about Hokum?
I'll start by saying you're a coward. I'll just say that. You watched Hereditary. Let's be real
Okay,
here.
but
That
let's unpack this a little bit. Hereditary, I watched in my own home where I could pause a movie at any point. I could turn on lights. I could get up and I could take a walk if I needed to. It is very different watching a horror movie at home than it is in the theater.
I hadn't watched the trailer for this, so like prior to you joining the call, I went and watched the trailer. I think I know what you're talking about with the 30 seconds in. It probably scared you. I'll say that 30 seconds was probably the first 2 minutes of the movie. And and then it kind of, I think Trey has alluded to this prior. The trailer did not do a good service to the movie itself. I personally
Well,
didn't think this was
okay.
very scary.
Yeah, the trailer basically condensed all of the scariest parts of the entire movie into like a minute. So it gave the impression
Okay.
that the whole movie was going to be that way, but no, I actually really enjoyed just the story kind of going on around in the movie and like even outside of the horror at some points. I thought the story was really good. Obviously, it's a horror movie, so there's going to be a few moments like that where there's like really good jump scares in this movie, and just the vibe is like really creepy at certain points. But yeah, I really just thought the story around it was the highlight of the movie rather than the horror
So
itself.
talk me through a little bit about what was going on in the story. So you read the log line and you hear that he's going back to scatter his parents' ashes, and it makes me kind of think that maybe this is something where he's like recollecting back on his relationship with his parents. And is that sort of the themes that are being explored here or not?
Yeah, Fogi, do you want to go through the
Yeah,
how
so,
it goes? I guess.
it's hard to say what the themes are because they kind of get thrown at you like kind of towards the end, like what you're really trying to get at here. It's one of those movies. It's really, I would describe this as a slow burn horror.
Mm.
Like it doesn't just throw you into the wolves and there's not demons possessing me 10 minutes into the movie. It kind of, and we set the tone with obviously he's a writer. We kind of see the opening as he's writing this story, and the ending is the way he's doing it is not uh, normal. It's very weird. And I mean, basically, the ending of this story that's in the first minute of the movie is this guy is going to kill his son with a bottle to open. It's a conquistador. He's going to kill his son in the back of the head to open this bottle. That's very like deranged and
Wait,
weird.
when you say this guy, you mean Adam Scott?
No. He's writing. He's writing. He's a writer, so he's
Oh,
writing.
he's writing a story. Okay.
Yeah, so basically the movie opens, it's actually kind of throws you off the first few minutes, but the movie opens with him, he's writing, the ending of this book about a conquistador and his son in the desert. And for the first few minutes of the movie, you're actually in the desert with these characters that he's
Oh.
writing about. And I mean, maybe for the first like 5 or so minutes, you don't even see Adam Scott typing in his typewriter or keyboard or anything. You're
Gotcha.
actually in this story that he's writing. And at the end, also, it kind of goes back to that desert scene. So I actually really liked how that opened. It kind of threw you off what you were expecting to start.
And then it kind of just it fast forwards to him driving to Ireland to stay at this hotel, which the hotel is basically his parents' honeymoon there. So
Oh,
he's
okay.
going to put their ashes. It's like a picture of his mom, and he's going to pour the ashes on that tree. And basically, I mean, he's just there, and it's a horror movie, so he starts to see things are haunted. It explores a lot of, like you kind of said, his past, grief, forgiveness. It kind of hits all of the. I think that's the trifecta for a horror movie. I mean, grief is the best thing you can hit in a horror movie, theme
But
wise.
is it too overdone in horror now?
I don't think so because I
Okay.
mean, I think some of the best horror movies are still. I think that's it's probably the easiest to explore, but also this one goes past that and it throws some guilt in there too. That I think is really the thing that like hits it home. If we go into spoilers a little bit down the road, we can talk about that. I would highly recommend you do see this movie. I know you watched the trailer and you saw the donkey looking bunny thing.
Yeah, what was the deal with that?
I'll tell you this right now.
That was demonic.
He's in the movie for 2 minutes max. 2 separate scenes he's in it, and it's
I think
right.
that's even a little much. I'm trying to even remember. I remember like a second or two where you see that face.
So there was
But
there was a jump scare with him that
Oh, that
yeah,
just sounds horrific to me.
and then there's one singular scene where he's talking. It's probably a good 45 seconds to a minute. Sure, it's like kind of the reveal of what kind of happened in the past, if that makes sense.
oh. I remember
Yeah.
that now. On
Really
the
creepy
TV.
scene.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is
yeah.
creepy. Yes.
But I think the thing that
you're not really doing a good job convincing me here, guys.
Well, maybe we should go into. I mean, I don't know how much it would ruin if Aaron wants to see
I
it.
think
But
if I do see it, it will probably be down the road anyway. So why don't you? So this reveal is. I'm playing completely blind here. Did his parents do something to him that he's now like having to wrestle with?
let's flip that a little bit. It's what he did to his parents.
Oh,
He was sitting as like a kid watching TV. He was playing with a gun. and he shot his mom
What?
and kills her
Accidentally.
accidentally.
yes.
Yeah, it definitely was not on purpose. And then, that drove the dad insane and he turned into a monster as he described, and then he died.
Well, how did he get the gun? He
That
wasn't supposed to have the gun in the first place, or?
Yeah, it was like his dad had like a lockbox or something where he kept the gun, and you see like the kid version of Adam Scott's character like opening the lockbox and like messing with the gun kind of. And then it's a very dreamy flashback sequence that you see. So it leaves the impression that, maybe there was other stuff going on that you don't like, it's not showing. Cause I said,
But
it's
they
very
don't.
like,
This is a reveal towards the end of the film. This isn't early on, right?
not
it's
really.
probably like, I would say probably 40 minutes left.
Okay.
Probably
Yeah.
35 maybe. It's definitely more towards the back half. But throughout the whole movie, I mean, the mom is technically the thing that's haunting him. Like one of the first things, I think you saw it in the trailer. The mom is the thing that's kind of, it's always behind him. It's kind of following him. It's kind of just showing that he's never let go of the past and it's following him wherever he goes. And another big thing in the movie is, it was in the trailer, is when you're getting chased by a witch, draw a circle around you and you'll be safe.
Yeah, I saw that in the
That's
trailer.
a big thing in the movie. Even in the scene that he's writing from this book, the guy is surrounded by a circle. And it's kind of cool because it obviously shows that he was trapped in a circle his entire life since doing that, because he never forgot that. He never forgave himself. I mean, he never even got to like apologize to his mom because she died.
Yeah.
And kind of towards the end, there's obviously he's getting chased by the actual witch and he draws like a circle, and then like the mom comes back and he kind of gets to like reconcile with her and be like, it was an accident. She kind of says, you need to move on. You need to leave the circle, which it seems cheesy, but the amount
it does seem cheesy a little bit as you're describing
the
it,
amount
but-
that the circle, I was like, how are they even going to play in this circle thing? I didn't think they were going to do anything. I thought it was just kind of a thing to do with the witch,
Yeah.
but it was kind of cool at the end. I definitely like that. To me, this movie very much felt like, Trey, I would be interested to see, because I think you play maybe some horror video games. It feels like a video game brought to life in a way. I
Yeah,
could totally see
that.
this being adapted into a video game, and just there are certain points where like that could be its own like level or thing. Which I honestly, that's kind of a compliment to it, because once you kind of are in the hotel, I think it gets haunted, it kind of takes a step forward, and I'm intrigued. It's kind of a mystery vibe to it. But Aaron, you need to see it.
Yeah, I will say we're leaving out quite a bit. So do not feel like if anybody's listening to this, or Aaron, don't feel like you just got spoiled the whole movie. And you don't need to see it now or anything. Because there is quite a bit more to it than what we're saying.
I was gonna say the one negative I'll give it is, I thought a lot of horror movies have really campy jump scares. And I'll admit, I jumped at like every jump scare, no matter how cheesy it is. A door closes, a loud bang happens, I'll always jump. I did not jump one time in this movie. I thought they were all very predictable. There was one that sort of got me, but there was one, and I've never experienced this before. There was one that happened. This girl in front of me legit screamed out loud.
Oh.
Never heard that. That kind of scared me more than the actual movie did. Because everyone just kept looking at her. They were really into that movie. But yeah, the horror itself, I don't think was very great. Definitely some frightening scenes. But from what I know you've seen horror-wise, Aaron, this is nothing compared to that. And not even Hereditary.
How was Adam Scott in it?
Trey, you want to?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I said,
because I know you had some reservations going in, Trey.
Yeah, I mean, I had seen the trailer, and the way that they show Adam Scott in the trailer, it kind of just felt like he was a guy that all of this stuff was happening to, and maybe there wasn't much more to it than that. And I was kind of skeptical about how good of a horror actor he would be. But I'll definitely say that was just the trailer. I thought Adam Scott was incredible in this movie. The first like 15 or 20 minutes, they really make him like into kind of a villain and a very bad guy by how he treats like the hotel staff and stuff like that. And then you slowly learn why, and he kind of redeems himself over the course of the movie. And by the end, you're hoping that he gets out of this situation and survives. But yeah, there's a lot of character development, especially as you learn his like troubled backstory and everything. But yeah, I thought he was great in the movie.
I also thought he was really good. He was, like you said, he was portrayed as an unlikable character at first. Like, there's no way you were supposed to like him or anything about him, but towards the end, you obviously like him. I just think it's something that most horror movies go away from, because this one actually has a good story to it, character development, like you said. It has themes to it. Most just go for campy scares, a terrifying bunny donkey thing or whatever, which still don't like that that was marketed as the movie. That is a big disservice in my opinion. If that wouldn't have been showed and I would have seen that in the theater, I would have probably cried. But I was able to prepare myself. I thought that was the witch. I think
Yeah, I did too.
everyone
That's
thought
why
that.
that's part of the reason I didn't see it.
There's also a lot of, I don't know if it's scary is the right word, but there's like terrifying and kind of really sad situations in this movie that have nothing to do with the supernatural aspect of it. Actually, this may be kind of a spoiler that Fugi was trying to avoid, but towards the end of the movie, there is something about magic mushrooms, and the Adam Scott's character has been like, I forget exactly how or when he takes them, but the character that kind of like gives them to him says that, what is the line exactly? Like, magic mushrooms help you see things that people normally can't see, or something like that, or stuff
Yeah,
around you that people can't see. And so that is kind of, I had mixed feelings about that kind of like reveal at the end, where it was like Adam Scott was like seeing things because of the magic mushrooms that people around him couldn't see also. But
for me, it was kind of a big thing. We didn't touch about because it's really not a big thing. Is goats in this movie? Weirdly, you would see random goats standing on cars just out of nowhere, and people would just shoot them because they were standing on cars. And it's like, why are they standing on cars? And it was because they would take this magic, the shrooms, and they would go on these cars to see their reflection. So it kind of says that when he took these shrooms, that he was on a self-reflection of himself. And he finally, when he was on these, he was able to finally confront his past and move past that, which I thought was really cool. So I was kind of mixed because this is at the end, kind of. And it kind of leaves the ending ambiguous because in a way you could probably take it as, you see what I'm trying to say?
Well, yeah. At first, I was worried that you could take it as like none of this actually happened, and he was on magic mushrooms. But I don't think you can take it that way.
I don't either, because there is a shot like 10 seconds after that I think kind of debunks all of that. Just kind of looking at his arms.
Yeah, and there's stuff that happens to other characters that he sees that
exactly
had to have actually happened. So
I just see it more as that was his ability to go on the self-reflection route that he needed to, and was finally able to move past his trauma, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you all seen anything else from this director? It looks like he's done a couple of Oddity, Caveat, and He Dies at the End are his other, I'm assuming they look like horror films. I just didn't, sounds like this is the one that's kind of bursting him onto the scene, but didn't know if you all had seen any of his other stuff.
Yeah, I looked at his previous films and I didn't recognize any of them, so I don't think so. I don't think
I have not seen any of his prior stuff, but I know apparently someone was saying that he has tied a lot of character development into multiple movies, if that makes sense. So I guess something that happens in this movie can be a callback to what was the one, Oddity? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. It does make me, I would be interested to go watch another one of his movies to see.
Yeah, the trailer the whole thing felt very atmospheric with kind of Irish cabin setting or whatever or hotel, I guess, not cabin. But I can see where there's a lot to get excited about for him going forward. What would you all rate this one on Letterboxd out of 5?
I think I was at a 3 out of the theater, but the more I've thought about it, I've liked it a lot more. So I think I'm at like a 3.5, which
I think I gave it a 4 immediately after, and I'm sticking with that.
Okay.
I think it's. I mean, I'm trying to think what other horror movies there have been this year, but I think it's definitely my favorite horror movie so far this year. Maybe Obsession will pass it here in a couple weeks, but
Did you
Bad
so far.
Grapes.
did you see
Yeah, Bad
28
Grapes.
years? You didn't see the Bone Temple, did you?
No,
Okay.
I have not. Although I have thought about seeing that, because if that's good, it may cause me to revise my opinion about the original one 28 years later.
I think that it
We'll see.
will make you revise your opinion.
Yeah.
But,
I know
I
you
will
said that.
say it has been a great year for horror, and it's going to continue to be a great year for horror. I mean, the fact that I think I've seen 3 this year, and this is technically the lowest I've given, is definitely a positive. And then you got Obsession, Backrooms, Evil Dead, Resident Evil. There's countless other horror projects coming out that I'm excited for.
what are the other ones that so this 28 years later, what was the other one that you're thinking of that
Undertone.
you've seen?
Yeah,
Undertone. That's right.
I forgot about that one.
Okay.
I guess Send Help. Is that a horror movie?
Yeah, I don't think I think it's more of a thriller than a horror movie. I guess you haven't seen Faces of Death is kind of close to that as
Yeah.
well. I don't know that I would call it probably more of like a slasher, but well, Scream 7, you've seen that. Is that
Yeah, okay.
considered horror?
There's been a lot of good horror. There's been some mid horror. I mean, The Mummy it's there, and then Thrash.
Thrash, yeah, that
Lee Cronin's
that's
the Mummy.
Lee Cronin's The Mummy. Sorry.
Who could forget? Oh, anything else on Hokum, guys?
It's
I think we're good.
no, yeah, I think
Okay.
that's about it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend people see it, even after listening to this, because don't feel like the whole movie's been spoiled or anything. If you're a horror fan, I think you'll definitely enjoy this.
So pivoting from a witch to a devil, and not just any devil, one that wears Prada. Want to talk a little bit about the biggest release of this weekend, and box office numbers for this one are quite impressive with how this is tracking. It's The Devil Wears Prada 2, which is a sequel from the 2006 film The Devil Wears Prada, exactly 20 years later. This one is also directed by David Frankel. And the film essentially is a 20-year follow-up to the first film. Logline is Andy Sachs reunites with Miranda Priestley as they navigate their careers amidst the decline of traditional magazine publishing. We get a lot of legacy sequels nowadays. Most of them are terrible. Some of them are good. Fugi, where did you land on this one? And before you answer that, this is an important question. Did you watch the first one before this? Because I know you notoriously have not seen this movie. So give us the full background.
Yes, I did. I watched it like 2 hours before seeing the second one.
Oh,
So,
wow.
you know,
Look
it was
at you.
kind of like a little mini TV series for me. I just got to ride that train. But I think when you think of legacy sequels, like you said, there's tons of bad ones. This is definitely one of the better ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many that I wouldn't be able to tell you this is the best one, but it would definitely be up there on that regard. It's not better than the first. I think that's a hard thing to do, but
Agreed.
I think you could make a strong debate that it's up there with it.
I think you're spot on. And I definitely don't think it touches the first, but I can't think of too many instances where you leave the theater for a movie like this and you're actually like kind of quite frankly, and maybe it's partially just going in with expectations as low as they were, but my expectations were like on the ground with this one. And it's probably just a good lesson to have low expectations and then you can't be disappointed. But we complain so much about how awful most of these legacy sequels are that I really think it's worth celebrating the fact that this one, and we can talk through some of this. I think there are things that are not great about this movie. I don't think it's high art. I don't think it's one of the best movies of the year or anything like that. But I do think that it does the first film justice. And I think a big reason for that is that this movie just is not afraid to really be a downer at all. It's a complete tonal and subject matter shift from the first movie.
Yeah, I agree with that because I mean, the first 10 minutes, you're like, it kind of throws you into journalism is dying in this
Yeah.
movie, and it's like that's a I mean, it's prevalent. They've tackled a lot of things that are prevalent in today's world that makes the legacy sequel so well because 20 years ago this wasn't a thing. So to tackle that in a modern day movie, I think it works really well. Could have failed epically, but with the care they had behind it, it worked really well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think what part of what makes the first movie as special as it is, a movie that I've watched quite a few times over the past couple years, but it kind of takes you into this world that you have never really been a part of, and you're getting to see the glitz and the glamour and the traveling all around the world and wearing all the cool clothes and getting to expense all these fancy things, and it I think the fact that they weren't afraid to, again, flip that completely on its head to where it's like it is the reality of media today. I feel like a lot of movies like this would have just tried to replicate the feelings that you feel from the first film into a second film like this, and it wouldn't have reflected the real world whatsoever. So the fact that they're not afraid to do that, and I think too that I think a problem that a lot of legacy sequels have is how are you going to get the characters all back together, and is that going to feel realistic? Because obviously when the first movie ends, you have the expectation that these characters are never going to all be together. Well, if you're creating a legacy sequel like you want them to all be together, I think it's pretty credible of how they kind of bring the original crew back together.
Yeah, that was my initial thought because I mean, again, I had never seen the first one. So when I watched the first one and saw the way it ended, I was kind of shocked. 'Cause I
Yeah.
was thinking the whole time, I was like, she's obviously gonna stay there because they're making a second one. So when she didn't, that was kind of a shock. But yeah, it definitely I mean, it was kinda just like it had to happen to get them together, but it also didn't feel forced in a way. Like it
Right.
felt natural.
Yeah. I should say at this point too, we're going to talk about this movie in spoiler context and stuff. I don't really think that there's too much that you can necessarily like really truly spoil about this movie if you care about the first film. But if you haven't seen the film, should probably pause this at the moment and come back and wait until you've seen the film if you're interested in seeing the film at all. But I think the only thing, Fugi, along that line that I struggled with a little bit, the Andy Sachs being a journalist that is losing her job and she's coming back to try to carry runway into the next generation and all that kind of stuff, that makes sense. I think the only thing I struggled with a little bit was the Emily Blunt character, her being like the head of Dior and everything we know about her in the first film. Like, she's passionate about what she does, but she's not really good at what she does, and so to believe that she's now all of a sudden running this conglomerate feels like a little bit of a stretch. But I don't know if that was implied that she's only there because of her boyfriend either. I thought that was an interesting element.
Well, I mean, they said that the only reason she kinda got that was because of what's Meryl Streep's character's name? It's
Miranda
slipping
Priestley.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, she only got that job because of Miranda. And it was kinda her way of pushing her out because she
Oh,
could
they
never
did say that. Okay, I
Yeah,
missed
because
that.
she said, you aren't able to do what I do." So she was kinda getting her out while still being, I guess, in charge of some things, but never like the editor in chief or whatever Miranda was.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she was my least favorite character in the first movie, which is kinda how she's
Well, it's
meant
funny
to
you
not
say
be
that though,
loved.
because she is kind of one of the more iconic parts of the
Yeah.
first movie, and it's a weird situation too, where in that first movie that was Emily Blunt's breakout role, so she was sort of a nobody before that, and now if you look at how each of their careers have gone over the past 20 years, she's presumably just as big, if not bigger, than a lot of the other supporting people that are around her. So you almost have to make her one of the main focal points of this movie, just by sheer what her star power is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true. I guess when did the first one come out? 2006?
2006, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, she was I guess I didn't like her in the second movie. She was definitely I liked her more in the first movie, but all-time favorite character, I'll say this now, Stanley Tucci is the GOAT. His character is
100%.
amazing, and a certain point in the second movie, I was standing up and clapping for the guy, like
Yeah, I think that that's what anyone who loves the original film, I think that you love the original film for a lot of different reasons, but one of the reasons is that Stanley Tucci really is just kind of the heart and soul of the original movie, and I think that the second one, they not only understand that, but they almost double and triple down on that. Honestly, some of the best scenes in the movie are his character Nigel and Anne Hathaway's character Andy when they kind of have their small moments together. But there's there's a payoff in the third act for him in this movie in regards to him and Miranda's relationship that I'm not gonna lie, I teared up a little bit whenever it happened in the theater, and I would have never thought that that would have happened in a million years. And it does a great job from a just character arc perspective,
well,
which I
it's
think is
kinda
what you were alluding to.
yeah, no, that's definitely the scene I was talking about. It's just cool to have a payoff that happened. You know, it was in the first movie, and a payoff happens in the second movie, especially in a legacy sequel. You do not see that very often.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was definitely the best scene in the movie for me. And I didn't tear up because I saw the movie 2 hours before, but I'm sure if I saw
yeah,
this in 2006 or
yeah.
a long time ago, that would have hit a lot closer. But
Yeah, and I think it's not only a payoff for him, but I also think it's a character arc for the Miranda Priestley character as well. Because I've seen some criticism on the film saying that she gets a little bit too soft towards the end of this movie with the way that not only her and Nigel's relationship is left, but also her relationship with Andy. But I think that's I think that's an arc for her because I think that it's very clear that she's getting older and she's reflecting on not only her current life but how she was previously and all of those things. So I do think that my one knock on the movie. There's a couple of knocks, but I do think that that's the character, the Miranda Priestley character, that isn't as moves as well from the first movie into the second movie, just because her positioning in this world is so different. In the first movie, she is this like severe kind of evil boss that everybody is terrified of. And now in the second movie, she's still in the same position of power, but her standing in the world is just not what it was previously. And everyone's relationship to her is a little bit differently. So you just don't get as many, which I think is part of why I love the first movie so much. You get all of these hilarious one-liners from her throughout the movie, like just being mean to other people in the first movie. And you just don't get as much of that in the second one, just because it does feel like she's honestly, I haven't thought about it in this way before, but this second film is almost more of like a team up movie between Andy and Miranda, which was an interesting way to take it. I just don't really know that I would have thought to kind of go in that direction.
I liked what they were kind of doing with her character because like, I think one of the funniest things was when Andy like walks in there and sees her hanging up her coat. And they're
Yes,
like, yeah,
yeah,
HR complained about it. I think that's cool that she was kind of like, I mean, she was so evil, mean in the first movie, and she's kind of getting
yeah,
like shut down a little bit. And like her one assistant in the office, she's like, you can't say that. Like, kind of like
yeah, yeah,
showing like a little cancel culture, HR stepping in. I thought that was cool. Kind of just showing that she isn't all powerful, kind of showing
yeah.
flaws, I guess.
Yeah, so the kind of again in the first film, Miranda is positioned sort of as the antagonist, but really the antagonist in this film is kind of who is going to be steering this company going forward, and it really has a lot to do with sort of the billionaires that are in control of these things, which I thought was another great touch by this movie to recognize that the only way that these sorts of companies can exist in today's world is for these like super rich guys that care about the business to come in and take over it. And you have the sort of main guy that's over it, and then BJ Novak is his son. But the thing that we haven't talked about at all is that one of the bigger elements of this movie is that not only is the Emily character sort of in this position of power that you maybe would have never thought that she would be sort of as the head of Dior, but she's also married to this guy who really is kind of shockingly so, like a direct correlation to Jeff Bezos. So he is sort of dating the Emily character, which just sort of feels like Jeff Bezos, Lauren Sanchez type relationship at this point. But then there's another character who is this billionaire sort of ex-wife who cares about philanthropy, which feels exactly like his ex-wife Mackenzie Scott is in the real world. So to bring that element as the friction in this world, I felt like really worked and felt realistic. And I also think if you fast forwarded 20 years from now, I think it's going to be a really cool snapshot of the kind of current media landscape and what that looks like.
Yeah, I think this is going to age really well as the future of just these businesses and obviously it's like Runway and this and like it's everything about this movie I think will age really well in the
Yeah.
future as we look back on it. So maybe in 15 years, people might say this is just as good as the first. I
Yeah.
could definitely see that in the
Yeah,
future.
because now when you look back at the original film, part of it is not only for what it was in that day, but it is also the nostalgia of looking back at like what that magazine era was like. And we should say for those who aren't aware, the original movie, The Devil Wears Prada, was based on a book that was written by a former assistant of Anna Wintour, who runs Vogue and is sort of the Miranda Priestley stand-in. And so it is funny to see how that real life business Vogue that is sort of based on this Runway magazine has shifted over the last 20 years. And there are a lot of parallels to what you see here and what happened in the movie. I feel like I know we've been really positive on this movie. I really like this movie, but I do feel like there are a couple of times in the movie where it just makes you like utterly aware that it's a sequel and you're like really trying to like wink at you and be like, "Oh, we know you remember this part from the first movie." Like there's a scene fairly early on when Andy comes back to the magazine and she is talking to the Caleb Heron character who is essentially like in the same role that she once was, and she's like, "Oh, are you still doing the book?" And she's like, "Don't go upstairs." And he's like, "Who would be dumb enough to do that?" And those kinds of things I did make me cringe a little bit, but I know you have to have some of that stuff in the sequels, and I like that it doesn't overdo it.
Yeah, I personally like that because I just watched it. I would say I mean, if you didn't rewatch that movie, would you really remember that was from the first? Like, did you rewatch this before seeing the second one?
Yeah, yeah, you would remember that's part of the first. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
but
the
it
book
wouldn't.
is kind of a whole like it's a whole plot line in the first movie.
Yeah, but they're not going to remember that maybe she went upstairs during. I don't know. I just think if you watched it 5 years ago and then watched this, you wouldn't
Maybe.
be like. But I thought it was cool. I think it's cool when you have callbacks to an original film without. I don't think they shoved it down our throats, but there definitely was multiple instances where it was like, okay, we know you're talking about that. Even like the coat thing, for instance, like her
Yeah,
throwing the
right.
coat at her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, there's a couple of those, but
I think it's good when they feel subtle. I don't think it feels good whenever it just feels like you're saying like you're just bashed over the head with it and it's just like fan service upon fan service. Like that's where it kind of grates on me a little bit. I do want to talk a little bit about the cameos in this movie because there are a whole heck of a lot of them. And what surprised me is you're expecting cameos from the fashion world, but I was not expecting the cameos that we got in regards to just other people in pop culture. Curious what some of your favorite ones were.
what kind of sucks. I saw the Carl Anthony Towns one online before.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't.
That was a great surprise in the theater.
It was weirdly it went around Twitter like a week ago. I don't know if they released something
Oh,
about it.
really?
But I saw that one. But I mean, I thought the Rory one was probably the most random. I
Yeah,
just was
I thought
not
the
expecting to
exact
see
same thing.
him.
Well, and I think what was weird about it was that when they were at that sort of Hamptons dinner scene earlier, where the Carl Anthony Towns character is, you're expecting like everyone kind of gets a moment. They're like, "Oh, this is John Baptiste. This is Carl Anthony Towns." But the Rory scene when they're at the Met and he's just there, kind of talking to Emily. They don't even mention like, "Oh, it's Rory McIlroy." He's just there, and there's probably a bunch of people that had no idea who that even was.
Yeah, I think that's kind of funny.
Oh, I
Certain people
agree.
will get it, certain people won't. But I thought for sure that they were going to show Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, I did
When
too.
they
So
when they
that was
said it, I thought they were going to pan the camera and it was going to be him standing there. But
so that was what I was wondering. Like, was he actually there when they were filming it? And because they couldn't include him in the actual like footage, they just wanted his name to be included, or was he not there at all?
I think it might have been a thing where they wrote the script, they had the scene in there, and like something fell through, and they couldn't get him for like filming that
Oh,
day or something.
yeah.
So then they just kind of like, okay, we can't show him now, which is
Well,
still it's still kind of funny.
what makes me think that though about like maybe he was there and they just didn't include him in the footage was that we know that it's been widely reported that Sydney Sweeney was originally supposed to make a cameo in the movie. And now seeing the movie, like it makes sense how that could have been cut because there was just already so much of it that maybe it just felt like too much. So that's what made me wonder with the Hugh thing was it like it didn't really make sense to include the footage, but they still included his name to try to make him feel like he was part of it in some regard. Um, the Carl Anthony Towns one was just really funny to me because I think that's like I couldn't tell you who the last person I would have expected to see at that dinner scene, but he does kind of just feel like an odd man out whenever you look at that. Really, a lot of them are like Kara Swisher's there, Tina Brown's there. There's a lot of sort of famous journalists that are there. And then you have John Baptiste, and you also have Carl Anthony Towns. I thought it was funny. It kind of took me out of the movie a little bit, to be honest, but I feel like it made it even more fun than it already was.
I'm just glad they didn't try to like shove too many lines. Like they didn't give him that much. They gave him like one
Agreed.
line of dialogue and get him off the
Yeah.
screen. Don't show him again. That's fine. But if they would have, Rory was one I think I would be a little scared of. I mean, we saw Happy Gilmore too. He is not a good actor. So they gave him one line of dialogue, make people happy, and then get him out of here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point about Happy Gilmore too, because that's a movie that like takes the cameos to the same extreme, but like they want to make sure that they're all like actual parts of the movie and they're not just like on the periphery. Yeah, because that in Happy Gilmore too, it was like you were almost getting whiplash for like every
Yeah.
2 seconds. There was a different famous person that was on screen, which was interesting in a lot of regards. I also thought that one of the lesser parts of the film that just didn't really feel real at all. And I have no idea I need to look up what this character's name.
Is it her
Okay, so
boyfriend?
Yeah, I
yes,
was gonna say the boyfriend.
the Patrick Brummel character, he plays Peter in the movie. That was the most like, what are we doing here moment to me in the entire movie. And honestly, too, even like the fact that I felt like they had to usher in this like love interest for Andy just felt completely misguided, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. It just that felt forced. Like that was
Yeah.
like we have to get someone that she falls in love with, but
Yeah,
you're good.
well, like a few minutes into the movie, I think it wasn't, but it wasn't right before she met this boyfriend, but I think it was a little earlier. I thought they were going to introduce. Oh, it was when she. I can't remember when it was, but do you remember Simon Baker's character from the first movie? I thought he was going to come back and be the love
Yeah.
interest in this one, and I kept waiting for him to show up in some way. I meant to look up and see like maybe if there was some reason he wasn't in this one, but yeah, I thought that would have been made more sense. Some kind of callback from a character like that from the first movie, rather than introducing some new character that really has no depth at all, and they just have like
Yeah,
2 or 3 scenes together.
literally
But
no, like this is paper thin as a character. He's what? He's an architect that's essentially like redoing the building that she also why is she moving into a multi-million-dollar apartment when she's like a journalist that could lose her job at any point in time? That all felt kind of weird.
She's
yeah,
making double what she was making before. She's earning the
Yes.
big bucks.
But yeah, his character and that whole like, I mean, come on, like this is in 2026. Can we have a female protagonist that doesn't have to fall in love by the end of the movie? That felt a little forced to me. I will say though, there's a moment where they're on the date together, her and the Peter character, and to me, it is like it just reminded me of what I like about Anne Hathaway as an actor, because they're both kind of sort of being like quirky and awkward together. And it really was just giving me like theater kid energy, which is kind of what Anne Hathaway like really her whole thing has kind of always been in her best regards. And I think for a long time it was a mark against her for the fact that she won her Oscar kind of in a theatery kid role in Les Mis. But Fugi, I don't know if you've ever seen this clip, but if you haven't, you need to. Everyone should look it up. There's this clip of her on the press circuit, probably like 10 years ago, and there's this guy who's like asking her, I think it's in regards to Batman and like how much weight she had to, if she lost any weight to like become Catwoman or something like that. And she is not mean to him in any regards, but she's just like, oh my goodness. She's like, you are such a forward young man. And she's just super quirky and awkward. And like, to me, that is Anne Hathaway. And I love that the movie doesn't try to change her too much from where she was 20 years ago. I love that her quirkiness is sort of a feature of the movie and not a bug, because I think there's a different version of this that would try to make her character a lot more serious. Now that she's this, respected journalist, would try to make her more serious than she really is. And I was just happy to see that, because I love Anne Hathaway, and we're gonna see a whole heck of a lot of Anne Hathaway this year in the movies.
Yeah, I didn't know she was in Mother Mary until like a couple days ago. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, she is the
Yeah, that's
titular
what
Mother Mary.
I knew nothing about that movie, but has she been nominated? Has she won? Or she said she won for Les Mis?
Yeah, she won for playing Fantine in Les Mis 2012, 13, whenever that movie came out. But I don't really know. Trying to think of what else she would have been nominated for. Let's see here. She was nominated for Best Supporting, and well, that's what she won. She won Best Supporting in 2012 for Les Mis, and then she was nominated in 2009 for Best Actress. I'm not getting any good indication of what that was for, but you got to think that as many awards. Oh, Rachel Getting Married is what she got nominated for in 2008. If anyone out there has not seen Rachel Getting Married, I don't even know if you've seen Rachel Getting Married, Fugi. It's a great Jonathan Demme movie from 2008. He's the same guy that directed Silence of the Lambs. Really great. I'm surprised she got nominated for that, because I would have thought it was a smaller movie, but probably the best performance of her career. So very, very justified. But she's kind of having this kind of late career, well, hopefully not late career, maybe middle career resurgence this year. She's been in Mother Mary, which hopefully you'll see and we'll get more of a chance to talk about next week. She's in this. She's also going to be in The Odyssey. She's going to be in The End of Oak Street, and then she's going to be in Verity later this year as well. So it's not often you get 5 movies in a year, let alone, in my mind, she's 2 for 2 so far, and the next 3 are probably all going to be good as well.
I don't know about Verity.
I think that it feels like it's going to be a kind of different type of Colleen Hoover movie. So it'll at least be interesting. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it will be a good theater movie, I guess.
Trey, I know you chimed in a second ago, but I know you saw this one. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat as Fugi. I had never seen the first one until like I think Monday night I watched it. And then I just saw the second one on Thursday. So kind of a quick turnaround. But yeah, I really liked it. I thought as far as, movies that like at the end of the first movie, you're not really thinking, oh, I can't wait for the next one. Like you're not anticipating a sequel. So as far as like sequels to movies that like didn't really feel like they needed a sequel, I feel like it's one of the better ones in that category. They didn't, they kept a lot of the same themes and obviously the same characters that everybody appreciated in the first one. And I kind of just had the same good, I guess, comfort feeling watching it. So I enjoyed it.
I think too, you mentioned something there that reminded me something we haven't talked about. And I feel like I'm saying a lot of negative things about this movie. I really like this movie, but the one other piece of it that I was like, seriously, come on, was when they, at the end of the movie, have the scene between Andy and Emily, and she's like, I called you after you left and like I always wanted to be friends with you. I did not buy that or believe that in any regard. I think those characters probably hated each other for a long time, and the kind of retconning of that was a little annoying to me, but it's a sequel, it's not going to all be perfect. It is what it is. I don't know if you all had a problem with that as well.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely it didn't feel that one again. That was something that felt forced because
Yeah.
she took her spot at Paris. That happened to me. I think I would hate Andy. But then they do kind of. I mean, she gives her those clothes. So like
Yeah.
in a world, I could see where she might have called her, but that just doesn't feel something that you don't need to be friends with everyone. That's okay. Certain things don't need to happen. That one felt forced.
Yeah, I think I agree. I guess, yeah, she does give her all those clothes at the end of the first one, so maybe that's kind of
Yeah, I had forgot about that.
turns it
You're
around.
right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also I was trying to remember. I think they had a phone call at the end of the first one, didn't they? I seem to remember. I think that was where she said, "I'm going to give you all the clothes." Their phone call at the
Yeah.
end of the first one. But I guess
I think
she's
so.
referring to a different time she tried to call her, I guess. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
always
I
so
didn't.
interesting with these movies where there, to your point, Trey, there was clearly never an intention for there to be a sequel. It does, and this is maybe where you like really start to run into trouble. It does make me think now, as well as this movie's doing box office wise, like how long until we hear that Devil Wears Prada 3 is going to be greenlit, because it doesn't feel like, I heard someone say this earlier this week. There's a lot of Lega sequels that are very appealing towards the kind of male demographic, and there aren't as many that it feels like kind of are catered more towards women. And so I feel like we see this all the time at the box office, is that when you put a movie out there that is going to be appeasing to more than just men, it does really, really well. Like, look at the success of The Housemaid from last year. That was a really popular novel, was sort of this kind of four quadrant thing where everybody was interested in it. Look at what happened a few years ago with Barbie. I just think that studios are going to eventually kind of start to pick up on that this is a good idea. I hope it means that they don't take it too far and drain a property for more than it's worth. But overall, I could not be more pleased with where the movie landed, because I just had so low of expectations and have just seen this go so poorly so many times, that to not only tie together what makes sense for the characters 20 years later, but also to bring it into the real world. And sure, it's got some of the schlocky stuff you're always going to have in a sequel like this, but I feel like, all things considered, we landed in a pretty good place, and I think anybody that gets too nitpicky about that is probably not being realistic.
The last thing I have about this, it's about BJ Novak's character. He's supposed to be very unlikable. That's the way he was. Kind of how we're feeling with Adam Scott. He was legit playing Ryan Howard from The Office 2.0. If we got a
It was pretty
time jump
similar.
from The Office, like this is where his career tried to go. It was really funny because even like certain things he was saying, I was like, he definitely would have said that in The Office. So I thought that was pretty funny.
I thought it was a pretty clever casting, because I think he can do that really well. I've seen some chatter that he's not giving a good performance, but I think the fact that the performance is as good as it is what makes you think that he's like not a good actor.
I don't think he's that good of an actor in general.
I'm not
So
saying he's like
I'm just
deserves an Oscar.
no, yeah, I agree. I don't think I just think he played an unlikable character, and when you're casting that role, he played it well. Because when I see him on screen, I kind of just like I don't know. I don't like him on screen, if that makes sense. But that's not necessarily a diss to him or his acting. But he just hasn't been in a lot. I looked at his filmography.
I mean,
Besides,
the last thing I can remember is
what,
that Vengeance movie from a few
yeah,
years ago that I know we're both ride or die for. But I mean, has he been in anything else
that's
since
what
then?
I really don't like. Yeah. So when I say I don't like his acting, maybe his bag is just so thin that. But he was good in that, so I'll give him that.
Well, yeah,
Cat,
and he directed that. Yeah.
I mean, he was in Inglorious Bastards, but I mean, I haven't seen that, but I know he's in
But
that.
that was no, I mean, that
No,
was
that
a
wasn't
long time
recent.
ago. I'm
Yeah.
not. Yeah, I mean, this is the first movie he's been in since Vengeance in 2022.
Wow.
So, that you always wonder in situations like that, like, is he going out for more parts and he's just not getting it? Is he intentionally not wanting to do much acting and they called him up and thought he would be perfect for this? I'm always curious to see what the behind the scenes of that are. But anything else on the Devil Wears Prada before we pivot to comfort movies?
I don't think so.
So the genesis for this, and I alluded to it earlier, was I think for a whole generation of people, The Devil Wears Prada is kind of one of their peak comfort movies. So when I say comfort movies, I'm thinking, maybe movies that aren't like five-star masterpieces, but are just the kind of movies that you have a bad day and you're gonna throw on and you've seen 100 times and you will watch 100 more times before you die. Um, there's just not many instances where we get a chance to talk about movies like that because so often we don't know what movies are going to become comfort movies until we get way down the road. So if a movie comes out this year, we're not really going to know that it's going to be a true comfort movie for a lot of people until you get 4 or 5 years down the road and it's kind of become that comfort movie classic. So the fact that we're getting a chance to celebrate the first film, thought it would be a fun way to go through and just kind of talk about a couple of our favorite comfort movies. We're not going to spend too much time on each movie, but we'll talk at least a little bit about them. And one important caveat, and Fugi, you can add anything you want to this, but we are trying really hard to talk about different movies in this regard compared to movies that we talked about when we talked about our 10 favorite movies. If you want to hear that episode, you can go back and listen to that. But like for me, for example, Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again is like probably my number one comfort movie. It was on my list of 10 favorite movies. I'm not going to talk about it here today in my comfort movie list. And I'm sure it's a similar thing for you too, Fugi.
Yeah, I mean, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think that's probably a lot of people's comfort movies. That's
Yeah.
obviously on my list, but I didn't include it today, but just know it's there.
All right. Why don't you get us kicked off? What's your, we don't have to rank these. We're just kind
Yeah,
of
I'm
listing them
just
out. What's the first one you want to shout out?
I'm gonna start off with Wonka. You know,
Oh, wow.
it I was kind of going through my letterbox. I was just thinking I haven't rewatched this a ton of times. It did obviously it came out 2 years ago, but this is one that I will rewatch every year for sure, probably twice a year. It's just a type of movie that it's got that wintry vibe, Timothy Chalamet masterclass, and it's just a good time. It's fun, it's lighthearted. A lot of my movies I'm gonna be listing are just kind of and none of them are obviously serious. They're gonna be, lighthearted, which all most comfort movies should be. But I love Wonka with all my heart.
Where does this rank for you on the Timothy Chalamet performances? Do you think it's like one of his better performances, or are you like, I just like the vibe of the movie, that's why I rewatch it?
It's definitely not. I mean, it's probably like 5 or 6, I would say. Off the top of my head, without really thinking too much into it, it's definitely not one of his best. But
Yeah,
it's also a lot of people don't think he's that good in it. I don't agree with that. But we're hyped for Wonka too. That's all I'm saying.
that is officially happening.
It is, yeah.
Is
And
there a date for that?
I don't think I'm pretty sure it like just got like fully greenlit, and I think Paul King is coming back, which
Oh, that's
is kind
promising.
of that's what matters. And I think that I don't think either of us are going to mention this, but that's something I want to shout out. Shout out Paul King because I would
Mm,
assume for a lot of people, Paddington or Paddington 2 would be on a comfort movie list.
yeah.
So he's just kind of that guy, I guess.
Yeah, there are kind of directors that will gravitate towards that. I don't think he's done anything else that would be on that list other than Paddington and see here, Wonka, Paddington. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of other comfort, but those probably all the Paddington movies, not just the first one is probably, or really the second one is
Yeah.
probably the one that is on most people's comfort list. My first one that I'm going to shout out here is Cha Cha Real Smooth. This is a movie from a few years ago, directed by Cooper Rife, who honestly his first movie is called Shithouse, and it also is probably considered a comfort movie for me. But there is something about him. He has kind of perfectly mapped onto the seasons of life that I'm in, and he's a couple years older than me, not too much so, but it's like almost every time he comes out with a movie, it's like kind of right in the stage of life that I'm going through at the moment. And Cha Cha Real Smooth hit at a point when I was like just kind of coming out of college. And it's really just about a young kid just trying to figure out like what is next in life as he comes out of college. Dakota Johnson is also in this film. Um, it's a movie that when it came out, I think a lot of people were not super high on it because they were like, he's a one trick pony, can't really do anything different. I have probably watched this movie like 10 times over the last like 3 years. I love throwing it on. I think it's hilarious. I think it's a totally rewatchable movie. And I've yet to tell someone to watch this movie and they've walked away from it and been like, that's terrible. It just it wears its heart on its sleeve and it just makes me kind of feel warm fuzzies all around. It's an Apple original movie, which is why a lot of people maybe haven't seen it. But it was at Sundance that year, and if you ever have Apple TV Plus and you want to check this one out, would highly recommend it. You've seen this one, right, Fuki?
Yeah, I remember you watched it at Sundance. Did you not watch it like 3 times in that
I
5-day
did.
span?
That's a good shout out because the way that it works for the virtual Sundance is you get 24 hours to watch a movie, and I think I watched it like 2 or 3 times within the allotted time that I had to watch it, which says a lot because I would not do that for most movies.
I'm glad that you kind of shouted out Shithouse a little bit because the way you're describing Cha Cha Real Smooth is the way I feel about that. That definitely could have been on my top 5, but I'm glad
Yeah.
it's getting its flowers. What I'll say to you is to watch Hal and Harper.
I know I don't like to foray into TV too much, but that is where Cooper Rife has spent his most recent time. This is the Mubi series that Fuki is referencing. It's on my watch list. I can't wait to watch it. But we need a new Cooper Rife film. Like, what are we doing? Let's speed that process up.
I
All right, what's your
agree.
next one?
My next one, I think I mentioned on a past episode, I'm going Snack Shack.
Oh
It's
wow!
this one truly is. I've rewatched this probably 7 times since it came out last
Which
2 years ago.
wasn't that long
It
ago.
was
Yeah.
probably 2 years ago. It's the ultimate. It's just vibes. Summertime movie, friends growing up. Kind of just hits a lot of different genres. You got the romance, coming of age. It gets sad. I don't know. That every time I think of that movie, it just kind of brings a smile to my face. And that is where we discovered Gabriel LaBelle. Well, the second movie, The Fablemans, which
Yeah.
easily could have put that on mine as well. That's another great movie, but I love everything about Snack Shack. And
That's a good one.
excited for you said he's directing something coming out this year, right?
Yeah, Caroline, which when I
Yeah.
drafted it last week, you were very confused about what that movie was and why I was drafting it. So hopefully the director can mean more to you as time goes on and you'll know what his future movies are. But that's a good shot. Definitely one of the kind of midway through that movie, they're definitely one of the more plot twistier things that you could have ever expected to, as far as where you think that movie's going versus what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
My next one that I'm going to shout out, I probably shouted it out as well, no, maybe it wasn't an honorable mention. But Father of the Bride is my next one. This is the 1991 movie directed by Charles Shire. But most importantly, screenplay is written by Nancy Myers. Just a super fun cast. Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, Martin Short, Kieran Culkin as a very young child in it gives a great performance alongside Kimberly Williams Paisley. But this is one that I don't know why. It just may be because that's the movies I remember as a kid watching, but it just has that like warmth of a 90s movie and it's funny. It doesn't take itself too seriously. You can kind of check in and out of it and still have a good time as you're watching it. You get to a point where you maybe even shed a few tears. It just kind of has the kind of whole package together. And it's like I said, it's hilarious at times, but it just gives you, like I said earlier with the Cha Cha Real Smooth, a lot of these movies for me, it just like gives you a warm fuzzy as you're watching it. And I would also put the sequel, Father of the Bride 2, since we're talking about legacy sequels, on that list as well. They're just characters that you just want to hang out with and spend a bunch of time. And I've probably didn't see this one for the first time until a couple years ago, but I probably watched it 5 or 6 times since then. I don't think you've seen this one,
I
have you, Fuji?
have not. No, it's been on my mental watch list for a while,
Yeah.
but I have not gotten around to that one yet. I have 5 movies on my list, and, I wanna shout them all out, but I'm gonna go a musical route. I might throw you
Oh,
for a loop here. I'm gonna go Pitch Perfect.
oh, I would have never guessed this.
I don't think a lot of people would, but I've rewatched it. I saw this for the first time last year, I think, and I rewatched it like 3 times. It's funny, it's got insanely good music. Ben Platt, I have to shout him out. I mean, I would put Dear Evan Hansen on here if it would have been good, but it wasn't.
RIP.
Yeah, it's another vibes movie. I have not seen Pitch Perfect 2 or 3, and I don't think I plan to
Mm.
ever in my life, because from what I know, I don't think they get any better than the first. But
I think I jumped off the bandwagon after the second one. I don't think I've seen the third one, but
because the second one, Haley Steinfeld is in it, right?
yes, I definitely have
Yeah.
seen the second one because I remember her. I think there's only 3. I think that's right.
Yeah. I wouldn't be
But
shocked if they do a fourth one at some point in the future.
it's a really, really fun. I think there is something, especially for people like you and I that like musicals. Those are kind of movies that I like to kind of throw myself back into time and time again. Which is why for my next one, and this is probably going to be the most out of pocket one that's on this list, not because it doesn't make a ton of sense, but you're like, how is that a rewatchable movie for you? It is the Phantom of the Opera, and it's not the 2004 film, but it is the Phantom of the Opera 25th anniversary concert at Royal Albert Hall. This was the essentially filmed version of the stage show that it's a very stripped down production, not as much of a production as you would typically see for Phantom of the Opera. But I actually have been watching it kind of in chunks over the course of the past couple of days, just because it's the kind of thing. There are movies like this for you too, Fugi, where it's like every year you watch it at least like once or twice, no matter what. It's like at some point in the year it's gonna go on. And I love the stage show in a lot of ways, but the reason that I love this one so much is because Ramin Karimloo is the Phantom, and really Sierra Boggess plays Christine Daae, and the way that it gives you close-ups of the character's face, the music makes me feel things. There's just nothing like show like that you like, being able to just kind of turn it on and feel like you're in the theater for 2.5 3 hours. And I've probably watched it 15 20 times over the course of the past couple of years. Again, an odd one on the surface, but a great one for anyone that knows. Anyone that enjoys that show knows that's the real version, not the 2004 movie.
That's yet another one that I have not watched. Where can I watch that if I do want to ever tune in?
I think you probably have to. I think you probably have to rent it.
I don't
Yeah, I
like
don't think
that.
it's on. I bought it on Apple a few years ago, and it has more than paid off the amount of times that I have watched it. But I think for anyone out there that is, uh, let me back up. Anyone that's interested in Phantom of the Opera, just go see the stage show. That's the best way to get introduced into that world. But if you're interested in watching a movie version of it, don't watch the 2004 movie. Watch the 25th anniversary stage concert, and that is the conclusion of my Phantom of the Opera corner for today.
My next one, this is going to be the only time I'm ever going to shout this entire genre out. So take notes.
Are we about to go into anime corner here?
We are going into anime corner. I'm gonna shout out Ponyo.
Oh,
I don't know if you've ever heard of that or
I
thought
didn't
about
even know
watching
that
it.
you. I didn't even know that you liked that movie,
I
let
love
alone that
I
it was a comfort
lo
watch.
I
Okay.
love this movie. I've only seen it once, and it was funny enough, it was the introduction into anime for me. I hate anime. I'll tell the entire world that. Um,
I don't know that that's true.
if there's one other movie that's good, everything else is bad. The shows are different than movies, but Ponyo is, I mean, it's literally this boy rescues a magical goldfish that wants to be human. That's the plot.
It's a Miyazaki movie,
It
right?
is, yeah,
Yeah.
2008, and there again, it was the introduction. It was one of those every scene you're just smiling, it's quotable, it's funny, it's heartwarming, it's everything you could want, and I think what's funny is obviously he gets really stacked, voice actors. I watched the dubbed version of this.
Mm.
The dubbed is so sight, and the one dub person that plays the little girl is the person that plays Lilo and Lilo and Stitch. So she
Oh.
sounds exactly like that, which I think is funny. And then you got like Liam Neeson, Matt Damon, super stacked cast, and it all around fun time. If you ever watch an anime movie, I would. Well, I guess you've seen The Boy and the Heron, right?
Yeah, and I've started a couple of his a couple of times.
Probably Spirit. You've seen Spirited
Spirited,
Away.
yeah, I haven't seen the whole
Oh,
thing, but I've watched like half of it. Yeah,
yeah. I would recommend this one. This one is a very light, easy watch, and
but you watched My Neighbor Totoro, didn't you? And you didn't like that one,
yeah, and
right?
I know if you were to ask 100 people, that would be on their probably number one most. That's probably if you were thinking like anime comfort movie, that's the one
Yeah,
that I despise that movie with everything inside me.
I think you gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, so I think you're being a little
I think
harsh. But
you should probably go check it again.
oh, is it not? Oh,
I
I mean,
saw
I'm not. I
I
don't have
saw
it
it
in
in
front of me.
theaters. I rated it 3 at first, and I rewatched it in theaters, and it went down to a 1. There was a lot of hatred towards that movie though, and it's not the movie's fault. I think it's the fan base, but
I'm gonna do a little switch around on what I originally intended to talk about for my next one. Because it's a holiday movie, but I'm gonna still classify it as a comfort movie. I'm gonna do Four Christmases as my next one. This is the Vince Vaughn, Reese Witherspoon Christmas movie where they essentially have to bounce around and spend a different Christmas at like their moms, their dads, her moms, her dads. And to me, this is like quintessential the point of what we're doing with comfort movies, where I, from the like film scholar brain, can watch this movie and be like, there's so much of this movie that is not good at all. But yet there is something about every single year when the first inkling of like wanting to watch a Christmas movie comes on, this is always the one that I turn on first. Every like sometimes it's even at the end of October, every October, November, I will watch it time and time again over the Christmas season. The jokes are so stupid, but I laugh every single time at almost all of them. Just a great time. I'm looking at the letterbox average of this movie right now, and it's a 2.7, which in my mind is the perfect sweet spot for what a good comfort movie is because it's not for everybody. It's just for me, and that's totally okay.
yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Well, I'm not a fan. I think it's that letterbox average is rightfully so. I'll say
I
that.
think it's one of those movies that the more times you watch it, the more you because I think maybe the first or second time I saw it, I thought this a similar thing. But the more times I've watched it, I've grown to appreciate it even more.
So is this 5 for me?
Yeah, I think this is your last one.
I gotta shout out a little. I gotta go like comic book route a little bit. Going the Lego Batman movie. If you've seen it, yeah, I think it's just
How
it speaks for
how many
itself.
times have you seen this movie?
I'm more than Ponyo. 4 probably, I think.
Wow.
Um, it, I think what's so great is, I love comic book movies. I like Batman a lot, and it just gives I've seen it 4 times, yeah. It's just
There's another very big part of this movie that you love as well, though.
uh well, Will Arnett, is that what you're gonna say?
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
he is
Yeah.
the best Batman, hands down. I'm shocked they haven't made a sequel to this yet. It's the jokes are hilarious. You haven't seen it, right? There's no way you've seen this.
I don't think so. I mean, I remember seeing the Lego movie, but I don't think I ever saw the Lego
There
Batman movie.
At one point in this movie, they do a crossover where like every Warner Bros. I think a Warner Bros. Villain comes. So like Pennywise is in, not Pennywise. Voldemort is in this. Godzilla, like all these huge IP people are fighting Batman.
Oh,
So it's kind of just
I
like
mean,
it's
Pennywise would be a Warner Brothers IP.
yeah, but he wasn't in that. I saw
Okay.
Alfred Pennyworth.
Oh,
But the jokes in this movie, I had to kind of put a comedy on here a little bit, and the jokes in this are hilarious. There's a scene where Batman is watching Jerry Maguire. And it's that the scene, the classic scene in Jerry Maguire where the "You had me at hello," and he's just like bawling, crying, and it's as like if you love Batman, he's so serious. To see a funny side of him, I think is reassuring. And then the fact it's Will Arnett. If I could shout out BoJack Horseman, I would. You
Yeah, I
know,
was gonna say, I think if I had to guess who your like comfort actor would be, like Will Arnett is probably up at least in the top 5, right?
yeah, I think it would have to be. The other one that would be up there that I didn't sadly get to is Andy Samberg, probably.
Mm, yeah,
He's definitely up there for me.
I can see that. My final one is, and when I say this, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, that's not a comfort movie. That's like high art, whatever." But I've watched it a bazillion times. I will watch it a bazillion times till the day I die. To me, a comfort movie is I could come home from a long day at any point in time and I could turn it on no matter what. Like I could turn it on right now and I would sit and watch the whole movie. And for me, that is Licorice Pizza, the Paul Thomas Anderson movie from 2021. Not at all in regards I don't even think it's anywhere near his best movies, but there's something about it. The first time I watched it in theaters, I was like, I kind of like this. The second time I watched it, I was like, oh, I kind of see this a little bit more. And then the third time I watched it, I almost just became entranced by the world and the characters. And I just wanted to, again, like hang out with my friends for a few hours, is kind of the way that it feels in a lot of regards. And the Alana Haim performance is excellent. The Cooper Hoffman performance is great. You get these interjections of these kind of silly characters like Skylar Gizondo and Benny Safdie pops in for a little bit of time. Sean Penn pops in. Um, it's a total vibes movie, and I just love kind of inhabiting the world for like 2.5 hours. A lot of people do not like this movie. I don't care at all, and I think they're crazy.
Yeah, if you would have given me a million guesses, that would have never been a guess that you would have said that there.
I don't think that there's a day that goes by whenever I don't know if you run into this too, Fugi, but sometimes, most of the time, actually, I won't like super plan out what I want to watch that evening just because I like there to be some element of surprise. And almost every single evening when I'm sitting down to watch the movie, there's a thing in my head that goes, Licorice Pizza? Like every single time without fail. It makes no sense. I don't know why it's the case, but it would feel wrong to make a list like this and not have it on the list. So much so that it sometimes is a little confusing for me when I'm trying to like rank PTA's films because I think this one is my like favorite, but I don't think it's the best in any regard.
Yeah,
So
and it's kind of what we've said. There is a differentiator between best
there
and
is,
favorite. So
yeah, exactly, yeah. So you haven't seen that one, have you? Or
no,
have
I
you?
have. Yeah,
Oh, you probably
I
gave it like a
I
3 on Letterbox or
I gave it
something.
higher than that, but it's definitely I think from the ones I've seen is my least favorite PTA. But I haven't
Yeah,
seen all of his, so that's not a diss to him. If
yeah. I
if
think
that's his lowest rated movie, then that proves he's a good director.
for sure. I think one of the times I watched it, I described it as like it's like smoke on your clothes. Like it just kind of lingers with you for a long time after you watch it. And to me, that's kind of the essence of what a good comfort movie is. Anything that you didn't get to mention that you just want to briefly mention?
I had two more. My Palm Springs was the one I was going back and forth between.
Mm,
That was kind of like another I ended up going Lego Batman, but that's a movie where I continue to watch it. It's one of those. It goes up on rewatch every time. Um, that's probably my favorite comedy of all time. The Lego Batman movie doesn't really. I don't think that's pure comedy. And then the other one is just How to Train Your Dragon,
oh,
the animated movie though, not the live
not
action.
the live action one from last year.
No, but that's just kind of. I mean, I will say that when I think of comfort in that way, it's more that score is a comfort to me.
Yeah.
I'll probably listen to that score every day at some point. So yeah, that's all I had.
The only other two I wanted to shout out was That Thing You Do, which is Tom Hanks' directorial debut from the 90s. Again, we're talking about like just total vibes movies. It kind of follows a band that is a one-hit wonder, a young Tom Everett Scott. Just makes you feel all the warm fuzzies. And then the other one would be Game Night, which is a comedy that I love and rewatch time and time again, as well as I hadn't thought about this one on the list, but it would be on there as well. Bottoms, the 2023 comedy directed by Emma Seligman. Just another like hilarious movie. I think comedy is just a genre as a whole that is a comfort genre for a lot of people. We all have those days that you just don't want to engage with something super serious or something super dramatic. You just want to kind of turn your brain off and laugh a little bit. And guess what? There's nothing wrong with that. Which again, to kind of tie it all together, is something that I think for a lot of people, Devil Wears Prada kind of fits in that lane. And the cool thing is, I think there's a bunch of genres that kind of fit the bill for what actually is a comfort movie. So tee up a little bit next week. We are going to we're going to start a tradition every season. We are going to kind of touch very broadly a bunch of movies that we've seen and just help you understand, like, is this something worth watching? Should you skip it? Really kind of the hope for this show as time goes on is that we're like we did today with Hokum and Devil Wears Prada. We're having more discussions about the things that we're talking about, and it's not as much of a quick format. But there are so many movies that come out and so many movies that we see, and we want to make sure that we kind of shout those out or make sure you stay far away from them in some regard. So the big release next week is the Sheep Detectives from Amazon Prime. Guys, I don't know if you've seen the early reviews and reactions on Sheep Detectives, but we may have a banger incoming. It sounds like it is phenomenal from what everyone's saying. So who knows? Maybe we'll have more of a discussion about that one than we think we are. But in addition to that, we'll just kind of go through and tackle a bunch of movies that we've seen recently. Until then, we, as always, hope that you watch a bunch of good stuff over the course of this next week.